She was counting tips when he walked up and said, calm as ever, "You're not on payroll anymore, Mom." The coins slipped from her hand. One hit the tile, spun, and kept spinning long after his words stopped. The cafe froze. Even the espresso machine went quiet, like it knew something just ended. Karen looked at the dollar bills still spread in front of her. For a moment, she thought maybe he was joking. Jake always used to say stupid things when he was stressed. But his face stayed flat, eyes already on his phone. Jake, He didn't let her finish. We're restructuring. New software, new system. It's just easier this way. She nodded once, slowly, like she was trying to understand a foreign language. The new barista, a girl maybe 20, hovered nearby, pretending to wipe something that was already clean. The smell of burnt milk hung in the air. Karen folded the bills into a neat stack, set them aside, and reached for the little notebook she used for shift records. He stopped her hand mid-movement. "You don't need that anymore either." The words didn't hit her right away. It was the way he said either. Final, casual, like deleting a file. She just stood there, her fingers still on the paper, while the refrigerator hummed behind them. He walked away, already talking to someone else. No goodbye, no thank you. Just gone. She stayed another minute, maybe two, counted what was left on the counter, tucked it all into her purse, and looked around the cafe. The chalkboard menu, the framed photo of the opening day, her own handwriting still faintly visible under the daily specials. When she finally took off her apron, she didn't fold it. She laid it flat on the counter, smoothed it once, and left it there. The bell on the door jingled when she stepped outside, louder than usual. At the crosswalk, she realized she was still holding the notebook. The corner of a bank envelope stuck out from between the pages. She pressed it shut and kept walking. Somewhere behind her, a milk frother hissed again, a sound she'd stopped hearing years ago. 3 days later, a letter, white envelope, bank logo, her name misspelled. K. Miller, not Karen. Inside, one line, account ownership update. Her name was gone. Only his. No signature. No reason. Just gone. She set it beside her coffee mug, stared at the line where her name should have been. The house was silent except for the ticking wall clock and the neighbor's leaf blower somewhere outside. Karen didn't call him. Not that day. She went to the cafe the next morning, same as always. Parked across the street, watched the new delivery truck back up to the door. Jake was there, clipboard in hand, laughing with one of the vendors. He looked lighter, almost happy. When he finally saw her through the glass, his smile dropped just a little. He came outside, wiping his hands on a towel. "Mom, you shouldn't just show up like this," he said quietly. She held up the letter. "This came to my house." "Yeah," he said, glancing around. "That's just legal cleanup. You said it was my business, remember?" "I said our business." He sighed. "That's what I'm fixing." For a second, the sound of a passing truck drowned out everything. She nodded, the way people do when they've stopped expecting a different answer. He started to walk back inside, then turned halfway. "You'll get something for your time," he said. "I'll handle it." Something for her time. She watched him disappear behind the glass again, the reflection cutting his face into pieces as the door swung shut. Back home, she made a list on a yellow pad. Utilities, suppliers, taxes. Columns, totals, dates. She didn't know yet why she was writing them, just that she needed to see the numbers lined up. The next morning, her login to the accounting software didn't work. Access denied. No warning, no message. Just gone. She sat in front of the screen. The cursor blinked, patient, pulsing, almost like it knew she was done waiting. Then she opened a drawer, took out an old flash drive, and plugged it in. The flash drive blinked once, then steady. She hadn't used it since the cafe opened, a backup from their first months, when every receipt still meant something. Karen clicked through folders, payroll, vendors, taxes, everything labeled neat, like she'd left it for herself. The air in her kitchen felt colder, though the heater was running. Invoices matched until they didn't. One number out of place, then another. Vendor totals doubled, fuel charges that made no sense. The deeper she went, the quieter the house became, like the silence leaned in to see what she'd find next. By noon, she had 3 columns on paper: fake expenses, missing transfers, unfiled taxes. Each one under his name. Nothing dramatic. Just math. She made tea, forgot to drink it. Steam curled and vanished before she noticed. The kettle clicked off in the silence. That small, sharp sound that made her move again. She printed everything. Pages came out slow, one after another, like they were breathing for her. The ink smelled sharp, metallic. She laid them out on the table, checked each line and read, "This one counts." The printer sighed when it finished, the sound of something ending for good. She stacked them, tapped the edges, slipped them into new folders: IRS, bank, suppliers. 3 clean labels, black marker. Then came the stamp. She hadn't touched it in years. It still worked, a single word pressed in blue: copy. The thunk of rubber on paper sounded louder than it should. Karen didn't speak, didn't rehearse. She just opened her email, attached the files one by one, double-checked addresses. Her fingers hovered over the send key longer than necessary. Not hesitation, accuracy. When the last one went out, she exhaled quietly and turned off the printer. The house hummed again: fridge, pipes, faint car outside. Normal life, pretending nothing had shifted. On the table, one folder stayed open. The label she wrote by hand: family account, closed. She didn't stamp that one. Not yet. Instead, she leaned back, listened to the tick of the clock, and whispered something so low it wasn't even a word. Outside, a delivery truck downshifted hard, that deep, metallic growl that sounded like an ending. 2 weeks later, the cafe's door was taped with a bright orange notice: audit in progress, temporarily closed. Karen saw it on her way to the grocery store. She didn't stop, didn't even slow down at first. But at the next corner, she parked and walked back. Through the glass, she could see them: 2 men in suits, clipboards, laptops open on the counter. The espresso machine was unplugged. Jake stood behind them, pale, nodding too much. The younger auditor held up a stack of papers, copies of copies, the same red check she'd made at her kitchen table. Karen stayed outside, half hidden behind her scarf. It wasn't pride, not even satisfaction, more like the quiet feeling of balance being restored. One of the baristas walked out crying. Another followed, whispering into her phone. The sign on the door kept flapping in the wind. She didn't linger, just crossed the street again, pushed her cart down the sidewalk. The wind caught the plastic bag, made it snap once, sharp and hollow. By the time she got home, her phone was buzzing. Unknown number. Then another. Then his. She let it ring. The calls came every hour that day, then texts. "Mom, what's happening?" They froze the accounts. "Can we talk?" At sunset, she finally opened one, just to read it, not to answer. He'd written, "I messed up. Please. I don't know what to do." She put the phone face down on the table, beside the folder she'd left open. It was still waiting: family account, closed. She reached for the stamp, pressed it once, firm. The sound echoed through the quiet room. Later that night, she saw the cafe's name pop up on the local news feed. Short segment, no drama. Financial discrepancies under review. The anchor said it like a weather report. Karen muted the TV and watched the screen without sound. The footage showed Jake outside the shop, hands in pockets, no smile. She turned off the light. The blue reflection from the TV lingered on the folder for a few seconds before fading. He came to her door 3 days later. No car in the driveway, no jacket, just him, standing there like a man who'd forgotten how to ask for anything. Karen saw him through the curtain before he knocked. She waited, counted to 5, then opened the door halfway. His eyes looked smaller, tired. "Mom," he said, voice almost steady. "I screwed up. I need your help." The same words she'd used to teach him when he was a boy. You mess up, you fix it. He stood there now, repeating them back like they might save him. Inside, the kitchen smelled faintly of paper and coffee. The folder still sat on the table, the blue stamp mark drying across its cover. She didn't invite him in. "You said it was your business," she said quietly. "Now it's your problem." He tried to speak, but nothing came out. The wind picked up outside, knocking the porch light's chain against the siding, metallic, rhythmic, almost like the click of a clock. Karen didn't flinch. She just waited until he lowered his eyes. He started to say something. Maybe sorry, maybe not. But she closed the door before the word formed. For a long moment, she stood with her hand still on the knob. The silence pressed in. The refrigerator hummed again, the sound soft and even. She went back to the table, sat down, and smoothed the edge of the folder. Then she took a small rubber stamp, the same one from the cafe days, and pressed it one last time on the inside page. Paid in full. The ink spread slightly, soaking into the paper. She leaned back, exhaled. The sound came out steady, lighter than she expected. Outside, a car door slammed. Footsteps moved down the walkway, fading into nothing. Karen looked at the folder, the blue stamp still wet, edges curling slightly. She took a slow sip of coffee, it was cold now, and watched the light move across the table. Outside, something metal clinked, soft, distant, almost like that coin on the cafe floor. The clock ticked once. Balance restored.